We have a big one here, folks. Lucio Fulci's nightmare-fueled gothic masterpiece, The House by the Cemetery, released in 1981 in Italy, then the following year in the UK. It was met with controversy almost immediately. Scenes were cut and it ended up on the notorious Video Nasties list in the UK. Devoured by fans from all over the world, it quickly became one of Fulci's most popular movies. Its legacy has only continued to grow. The cult following has become even bigger, and The House by the Cemetery has cemented itself as one of the finest examples of Italian horror ever made. Grab a cold glass of J&B whiskey, a pink toy revolver and a stuffed monkey, because we're crossing over to the other world. We're entering The House by the Cemetery.
House by the Cemetery.
The movie starts with a young woman, familiar to Fulci fans as she's played by Daniela Doria, searching for her missing boyfriend inside an old abandoned house, only to find him pinned against the door, brutally mutilated. Moments later, a knife comes crashing down through her head from off screen, before she's dragged away by a mysterious figure. Then the title card appears. Meet the Boyles: Dr. Norman, Paolo Malco, Lucy, Katrina McCall, and little Bob, Giovanni Frezza. The family have recently purchased and are moving into a large manor situated in New Whitby, Massachusetts. But there's a connection that draws Dr. Norman to this house. An ex-colleague of his, Dr. Peterson, who previously owned the property, murdered his mistress before taking his own life inside the house. Wanting to uncover the truth, the family stop at the local estate agents to collect the keys. Instantly there's an aura surrounding the property that the townsfolk are all too aware of. A history best left forgotten. This is when Bob sees a young girl in an old photograph standing at a window with an unsettling expression, but to everyone else the girl simply doesn't exist. Moments later she appears across the street and forms a telepathic connection with Bob, warning him to stay away from the house. After reaching the house and noticing just how rough the interior really is, they come across a locked cellar door that won't budge. A babysitter then arrives, introducing herself as Anne, played by Anya Pirani. Sent by the estate agents to look after Bob, her arrival allows Norman to pursue the Peterson mystery by visiting the local library to uncover more information about the case. The librarian catches him and quickly recognises Norman, but is this simply a case of mistaken identity? Norman insists they've never met. This isn't the only time this strange occurrence happens. While Lucy is shopping for food and unpacking at the house, Bob keeps being visited by May Fraudstein, the little girl from the photograph. She shows him some strange sights around the grounds, and something just doesn't add up. Lucy discovers a gravestone hidden beneath a rug inside the house, bearing the name Jacob Tess Fraudstein. Connecting it to the grave outside in the cemetery that May shows Bob marked Mary Fraudstein. Who exactly are the Fraudsteins? Rightfully spooked, Lucy questions everything, but Norman reassures the family and finally gains access to the cellar. Almost immediately, he's attacked by a bat that latches onto his hand. After suffering a nasty injury, the family make a trip to the local emergency room. Miss Gittelson, the estate agent from the beginning, played by Dagmar Lysander, makes a house call. Her ankle becomes trapped when the tomb inside the house cracks open, leaving her unable to escape. As she desperately tries to break free, she's brutally dispatched with a fire poker through the throat, before once again being dragged away. Returning home, Lucy finds Anne cleaning a suspicious looking pool of blood from the very room where Gittelson was dragged away from. Oddly, she dismisses it. Norman's research leads him to discovery that Dr. Fraudstein was a Victorian surgeon who carried out horrific experiments. He decides he needs to travel back to New York to continue his investigation, and it's during this trip that he discovers a cassette tape left behind by Peterson, documenting his descent into madness. Back at the house, Anne finds herself in the cellar after searching for Bob and hearing what sounds like a child sobbing below. Her fate is sealed when a sharp hatchet instantly decapitates her, leaving Bob in a state of shock after discovering her severed head. The race is now on. Norman returns home, Lucy finds Bob sobbing about Anne's death. Shortly after, Bob becomes trapped inside the cellar. Norman hacks the door down, only for the couple to stumble upon the most horrific, grisly discovery imaginable. A butcher's shop from hell, with human remains scattered across the room. Sharp surgical instruments used to inflict fatal wounds with terrifying precision. And then the most alarming discovery of all, a man, a creature, who has stitched himself together using random body parts and human flesh. A being so horrifying, so evil that it sends shivers down your spine. Dr. Frizzi is alive. What follows is one of the most intense, frightening and genuinely intriguing final 10 minutes in any great horror film. Can the Boyles survive? Can they put a stop to Frizzi? We'll catch up with the fascinating ending later on. But that is the macabre beauty of The House by the Cemetery. So let's catch up with the cast quickly. Starting with the always beautiful Katrina McCall, coming off her previous collaborations with Fulci on City of the Living Dead and the Beyond. This would be her final outing with Fulci and Italian horror in general. She gives a wonderfully subdued performance as Lucy, an ordinary mother caught in the most extraordinary situation. She always has great screen presence and genuinely elevates whatever material she's given. A joy to watch. Paolo Malco's Dr. Norman Boyle has an air of menace running throughout his performance. At times he seems genuinely confused by the strange occurrences unfolding around him. Yet he also keeps his cards close to his chest, placing his family in potential danger for his own personal needs. Something always feels slightly off about him, and Malco does a fantastic job of conveying that to the audience. The following year he would reunite with Fulci for the New York Ripper. Like McCall, he's a joy to watch and consistently elevates the material. Giovanni Fresa's little Bob Boyle gets a lot of flack from fans, and I'll address that now. The dubbing. Bob's dub is constantly criticised and often labelled as one of the worst of all time. And yes, it's strange, and at times even unintentionally funny. But hand on heart, I have absolutely no issue with it. It never takes me out of the movie. If anything, it only adds to the bizarre atmosphere. Besides, there's far worse dubbing out there. Zombie Nighty Extreme Pestilence, anyone? Fresa himself does a great job, and Fulci would cast him again in Manhattan Baby. He'd also continue acting, even making a memorable cameo at the end of Lamberto Bava's Demons. So yeah, Bob is all good in my books. Then we have the tremendous cast surrounding them. Sylvia Calatina, playing May, does a great job of bringing this somewhat creepy Victorian ghost child to life. Familiar faces like Dagmar Lassander, Anya Peroni and Daniela Doria always make for great viewing, usually because they end up having some of the most graphic death scenes ever put to film, but again, it's always a pleasure to see them in these movies. We even get a small cameo from Carlo Di Meo. This movie really has it all in terms of cast and crew. And speaking of the crew, this was one of the last productions to maintain that perfect run for Fulci, with absolute superstars behind the camera bringing this horror to life. Let's have a look at this Hall of Fame roster. The story and screenplay were crafted by the dream team of Dardano Sacchetti and Elisa Briganti, with contributions from Fulci and Giorgio Maurizio. In my opinion, this might be the strongest and most coherent of the Gates of Hell films, and perhaps even his horror movies in general. It feels incredibly airtight, moves at a great pace, and is packed with unforgettable and fascinating characters. Produced by Fabrizio De Angelis, a Fulci and Italian cinema mainstay in general, he knew exactly what the fans wanted and was willing to put his money where his mouth was. Production looks and feels incredibly professional, rivaling anything that the Americans were making at the time. On cinematography, Sergio Savati sadly makes his final venture with Fulci, but he certainly goes out on a high. Captures that gothic horror atmosphere perfectly, never missing a detail and crafting something truly mesmerising and beautiful out of pure terror. He was simply operating on a different level compared to most. Special makeup and effects were handled by Maurizio Trani and Gianetta De Rossi, supposedly credited only. Once again proving why they were Fulci's regulars after earning their stripes on films like Zombie Flesh Eaters. Their work here is exceptional. Every ounce of flesh on screen looks disturbingly real, and the creation of Fraudstein might just be Italy's crowning achievement when it comes to practical effects, but more on the Good Doctor later. Lastly, I want to mention Walter Rizzati, a name I haven't brought up before during these videos, but someone who is an essential part of this movie. The score is perfect, every track delivers, and it genuinely rivals the iconic work of Fabio Frizzi. Replacing Frizzi is a near impossible task, but Rizzati comes remarkably close. I absolutely adore this soundtrack, and the main theme ranks among my all-time favourites. It perfectly complements the gothic tone and gruesome visuals. So those are the key players, and you probably notice I've left out one very important figure. Well, I think he deserves his own section, and here it is. Your appointment is ready. Time to see the Doctor. Fraudstein, played by Giovanni De Nava, who also portrayed Zombie Shrike in The Beyond, brings his incredible creation to life in The House by the Cemetery. Dr. Fraudstein is one of the most memorable monsters in cinema. Period. One thing you constantly hear is just how effective he is. He traumatised thousands of young viewers upon release, and he continues to do so to this very day. I can safely say he scared the life out of me when I was younger, and after speaking with my dad, he had exactly the same experience. He told me that on his first viewing he actually had to leave the room when Fraudstein appeared, and I completely understand why. Then, doing what all good fathers should do, this became one of his go-to recommendations. He almost traumatised both me and his godson by introducing us to Fraudstein. It's one of those images that stays with you forever, so I have to thank him for that. It may have given us nightmares, but all those years later, I completely understand why. Fraudstein is genuinely unsettling. As I mentioned before, he's pieced together from human remains, dressed in an old Victorian surgical outfit, and has this rotten, insect-like appearance. He's incredibly imposing, and you genuinely believe he's been keeping himself alive by upgrading his own body throughout the years. Every new addition seems to have some strange effect on him, and it really shows on screen. From his slow, methodical movement to the eerie, childlike crying that accompanies his presence, everything about him is horrifying. I've always believed that the crying actually comes from Fraudstein himself rather than the soundtrack, because it's entirely plausible that he's replaced his own vocal cords with those of an infant. After all, we know children aren't safe from him either. And that reveal, seeing him hunched over on the bed with the sound of a child crying coming from him, might just be the greatest villain reveal ever put to film. Sorry Vader, but I'm giving Fraudstein the trophy here. When Norman stabs him and you see that thick brown liquid mixed with maggots pouring from the wound, it's absolutely disgusting and completely unforgettable. No bright red blood here. Once again, it reinforces just how rotten and decayed he truly is. Being situated beneath a cemetery has obviously given him an almost endless supply of bodies, which is another horrifying detail. But a huge amount of praise also belongs to Giovanni De Nava himself. His mannerisms, movement, and naturally tall, gangly appearance are absolutely perfect for the character. The way he awkwardly stumbles through rooms, retreats into the darkness only to suddenly appear behind someone is incredibly effective. It's the perfect combination of design, makeup, performance, character, and even the name itself. Everything about Fraudstein is mysterious, intriguing, and terrifying. You simply can't take your eyes off him whenever he's on screen. It's also a stroke of genius to keep him hidden until the very end. Having that as a big reveal is the icing on the cake. You never feel cheated. It's one of those cases where hiding the monster makes the eventual reveal even better than anything you could have imagined. I've been gushing about him because I genuinely think he's one of the most underrated horror villains ever created, and I won't give up until we get an action figure. At this point, it wouldn't even surprise me if he turned up as a Fortnite skin. I want more Fraudstein in my life, and so do you. Let's talk about the Lovecraft inspiration and the ending. This wasn't the first time Fulci had been influenced by H.P. Lovecraft. City of the Living Dead borrowed heavily from his work, right down to being set in the town of Dunwich. But The House by the Cemetery feels like it could genuinely exist within the pages of a Lovecraft story. You have an obsessed investigator researching a man who descended into madness and murder, while an almost otherworldly monstrosity lives beneath the house. Then you throw in the infinite cycle that suggests these characters are more connected than we initially realised, and you end up with an incredibly strong love letter to Lovecraft and the universe he created. Fulci even admitted that he wanted this film to exist within that world. The other major inspiration was Henry James, the turn of the screw. Fulci even fabricated a quote attributed to James that appears at the end of the film. "No one will ever know whether children are monsters or monsters are children." Fulci certainly wasn't hiding what inspired him with this one. As for the ending itself, it's wonderfully bizarre, and I absolutely love it. Throughout the entire movie, you're shown little moments that make you stop and think, that was strange. People recognise Norman. May has this mysterious connection with Bob, and if you pay close attention, the opening scene actually takes place after the events of the film. The house has clearly been abandoned for years, yet the Boyles family belongings are still inside, suggesting the opening murder happens after everything we've just watched. Then Bob escapes and is greeted by Mary Fraudson, whose grave we saw earlier, despite May telling Bob that she isn't actually buried there. Has Bob crossed over into some strange parallel world? Norman Boyle doesn't simply resemble Dr. Peterson. Perhaps he actually is him. Fraudstein murdered his daughter May and his wife Mary. Peterson murdered his mistress. Norman was on the verge of murdering Lucy and Bob. Well, I'm not entirely sure that's correct, but that's exactly what I love about the film. It rewards repeat viewings and research. It feeds you just enough information and enough subtle hints that you can start piecing everything together yourself. Considering everyone who lives in that house eventually goes insane and murders their loved ones, it's entirely possible that the Boyle family were always destined to suffer the same fate. I still need a few more viewings before I can confidently put a pin in it, but I highly recommend watching the storytelling autopsy, Lucio Fulci's The House by the Cemetery 1981, by the YouTube channel Visited by Voices Network. They do a fantastic job explaining exactly what's going on. Regardless, it's a film that keeps on giving. It's layered, mysterious, and stands apart from so many other horror films of its era. A few points of trivia. The film was shot in the same house that would later be used in the 1988 Italian horror film Ghost House. It became Fulci's most financially successful horror film of the 1980s. So there we have it. We've survived and escaped from the clutches of Dr. Fraudstein and are now hanging around with creepy Victorian ghosts. I really hope I've sold you on this movie, because I was completely invested during the viewing, and it's come incredibly close to taking this top spot as my favourite Lucio Fulci film. I'd love to see its legacy continue to grow, because it really is a fantastic little gothic horror gore fest, and if I ever got the opportunity to create something like a movie or even a video game, I'd absolutely adapt this. Imagine a House by the Cemetery video game. Puppet combo, make it happen please. I'm honestly surprised it hasn't been remade. The title alone is worth the price of admission. But like most things, there's no beating the original. The House by the Cemetery deserves a place in every great horror collection. Hello everyone and welcome to the physical media portion of the video. This is obviously a bumper special, so got a few releases to talk about, not as many as City of Living Dead or Zombie Flesh Eaters, but still a respectable chunk of physical media goodness. So we jump straight in with the 2011 Blu-ray release of House by Cemetery by Blue Underground. Again, love the cover art. House by Cemetery is one of those films that I don't really think has had a bad cover art, especially from the original run. It's had a resurgence in newly commissioned artwork, some good, some hit or miss, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, for the most part, I mean, any of the original artworks for the movie, you chuck that on a front cover and I'm sold. So I'm pleased to see this version of the artwork, considering this you don't see this one as much as others. Yeah, like I said, really striking, really well done. We've got a quote on the front that says, "A truly frightening horror film, bloody disgusting." Here we have the back of the release. We got quite a few extras. We got Meet the Boyles, interview with stars Katrina McCall and Paolo Malco. Children of the Night, interview with stars Giovanni Frezza and Silvia Calatina. Tales of Laura Grierson, interview with star Dagmar Lysander. My Time with Terror, interview with star Carlo De Meo. A Haunted House Story, interviews with co-writers Dardano Sacchetti and Elisa Briganti. To Build a Better Death Trap, interviews with cinematography Sergio Savati, special makeup effects artist Maurizio Trani, special effects artist Gino De Rossi, and actor Giovanni De Nava. Deleted scene, theatrical trailers, TV spot, poster and still gallery. So as you can see, a pretty stacked release again for 2011 for an early release. Yeah, it's really nice to see. And I believe this is probably the first time the film got a Blu-ray release. So again, you know, straight off the bat, all around solid release. And there's the disc, no inserts. We have a background image and a chapter select. But yeah, again, you know, using the same cover art from the front cover. It's effective, it's simple. And yeah, like I said, you know, just a good release. I believe the transfer, the audio is all, you know, pretty decent. Can't remember any real negative comments about it. So, you know, if you see it cheap, probably recommend still grabbing this one. It's a good release all around. Next up, we have the classic Arrow Video window box edition for the movie. What's nice is that Arrow managed to get all 4 of the Fulci, you know, so-called zombie films out on window box. So if you do have them, you know, they look nice on the shelf. And you know, I think people, I have nostalgia for the window box. I mean, it's not ideal. I remember even at the time not liking the fact that a lot of the cover and overall packaging is just blank space. It's just white borders. You know, I'm a fan of the cover art taking up the whole image. So, but again, nostalgia, you know, we're quite far away from these editions. And yeah, you know, they, like I said, once you've got a few of them on the shelf, they do look quite nice. I've always thought it'd be quite nice if Arrow did a bit of a throwback and, you know, maybe as a web exclusive or whatever, you know, just released a film or a series of films in this kind of style packaging again. You know, I thought that'd be quite cool. But anyway, this is their House by Cemetery. So as you can see, obviously with the window box, the gimmick is that it comes with 4 different cover arts and you can choose which one and then kind of, you know, display it with the window. And yeah, this is one I've chosen. It's one of the original poster arts, American, I believe. Yeah, you know, simple, doesn't really give too much away, but you know, it's somewhat striking. So there's the back of the release, 2011 as well, so same year as the Blue Underground one, and region ABC. I'm not too sure if that Blue Underground one is region 3 actually. I couldn't see it, but yeah, like I said, this one does have quite a few extras on it, to be honest. So let's get into that. We've got reversible sleeve with 3 original poster artworks and newly commissioned artwork cover, double-sided fold-out artwork poster, collector's booklet featuring new writing on the film and an interview with Katrina McCall on her time working with Fulci in the Gates of Hell trilogy. Then we have Blu-ray Disc 1 special features, audio commentary with star Katrina McCall, moderated by Callum Waddell, audio commentary with co-star Sylvia Calatine, moderated by Mike Branza of Pora Productions, introduction to the film by Giovanni Frezza, Back to the Cellar, interview with star Giovanni Frezza, Cemetery Woman, interview with star Katrina McCall, Fraudstein's Follies, interview with special effects artist Giannetti De Rossi, Wax Mask, finishing the final Fulci interview with Sergio Stivoletti about his completion of Wax Mask after Fulci's passing. Ladies of Italian Horror, featuring Silvia Calatina, The House by Cemetery, Stefani Cassini, Suspiria, Bloodstained Shadow, and Barbara Magnoli, Suspiria, Sisters of Ursula, Easter eggs. DVD Disc 2 special features, House by Cemetery, onstage Q&A, cast reunion, live from the Horror Hound Convention, Indianapolis, March 2011. Featuring Katrina McCall, Giovanni Frezza, Silvia Calatina, Carlo Di Meo, and Dagmar Lasanda. Italian trailer compilation, 20 cult trailers from the golden age of Italian cult cinema, including several rare previews from the resume of the late, great Lucio Fulci, each prefigured by a written introduction, deleted scene, original House by Cemetery trailer, and TV spot. So yeah, quite a lot. You know, and even compared to the previous release, which had quite a few extras, this one, you know, looks to have a little bit more. Again, I'm not sure what ones overlap, but yeah, quite a lot. Interesting that you've got the Sergio Stivoletti interview about the wax mask, considering, you know, this isn't the wax mask, but maybe at the time, you know, they just wanted to get as much content they could to put out, you know, a special edition. So do appreciate that. Here's the inside of the release. The double-sided poster art, I believe, contains newly commissioned artwork, which we'll be seeing again shortly, so not going to show it off, and also one of the original poster artworks, I believe it's the classic, you know, man overlooking the cemetery with a knife in the hand. I believe it's that one. If not, it's the artwork that I had chosen to show off in the window box. So again, not going to faff about getting that out, but as you can see, you've got 2 discs there, Blu-ray, DVD. Got the booklet to the far left. You can see fraud scene popping out. Not a, you know, real comprehensive booklet. It's just, you know, a few pages long, but again, for the time, you know, this was all new territory for Blu-ray and for Arrow. So, you know, it's a nice little bonus. And on the far right, you can see a third disc. Funny story, I remember, I want to say this is actually the first Blu-ray, first kind of special Blu-ray that I ever brought. I might have had a few cheapies from Blockbusters and stuff like that. But yeah, this one, I remember getting off Amazon. You know, it had already been released for a little while, you know, a handful of years maybe. Got it from Amazon. And when it arrived, I remember checking out the discs, and disc 2 seemed to be a copy, didn't have the extras that were stated on the back. So I remember checking the forums. This was a known issue for this release. Said get in contact with, you know, the Arrow Video, which I did. They sent a replacement disc, and yeah, you know, it's again, this was a few years after it'd come out. Arrow had already stopped doing these window box editions, so it's just funny how they were still readily available. You know, select films, and again, you know, they had kept these spare discs obviously aside because they knew that, you know, people were still complaining about it. So, you know, I'm pleased to have that. But yeah, like I said, it's for the time, it's a nice edition. Again, it's not the edition that I've watched. I haven't checked out for a long time, so I can't really say much on audio and transfer, but again, I can't remember it being ragged on too much at the time. So, you know, you probably do still see these pop up for a fair price. If you do, I probably would suggest grab it, again, just for like collectors instinct in you. But yeah, it's for 2011 for early Arrow Video. It's a nice release. Here we have the next release, again another Arrow Video. This time round, it's from 2014, so a few years later, and this is the kind of standard release for the film after, like I said, they had moved away from the window box. This one's interesting because I have a 3-disc version, and I know they released a 1-disc version, I want to say, as well. So again, you do see both of them floating around on eBay and stuff like that for, you know, a pretty decent price. But yeah, you know, again, I was glad to pick this up back in the day. And this is what I'm talking about with newly commissioned artwork. I mean, it's okay, it's fine. They did have quite a stylized approach to their cover arts back then. All 3 of the Fulci Gates of Hell trilogy kind of shared, I don't know if it's the same artist, but it definitely looked the same. So, but yeah, it's somewhat striking. I mean, I do have a bit of an issue with Fraudstein being, you know, showed off front and center. I think it works best if he's hidden, and you know, when you watch the film and you get the revelation at the end, you know, that's a jaw-dropping moment. You know, it's a spectacle of makeup, you know, and it's just a shame. Like I said, I know Blue Underground did a cover art on their DVD release from the mid-2000s that had him front and center. And again, I believe it's a variant of an original cover art, so I can't give it, you know, a hard time too much. But you know, it's a bit of a shame you're giving away, you know, the money shot. But yeah, again, this is stylized. I mean, you know, it's effective. Yeah, it does its job. I don't have too much of an issue with it. It's just not one of my favorite newly commissioned artworks. Again, region ABC, which is very nice. Not gonna go over the special features because it is the same as the previous release. And yeah, there we go. There's the 3-discer. Each disc has different cover art, which is quite nice. And there's the booklet, exactly the same as the window box one. And again, you know, talking about that Blue Underground cover a moment ago, that pretty much was cover art. So, you know, it's from the time. I can't give it, you know, thumbs down. But my preferred House by Cemetery cover keeps Fraudstein hidden. So, but yeah, like I said, nice 3-discer, nice budget release. You can still find it for a good price. Again, still probably recommend grabbing it if you come across it. Here we go. Now on to you know, real interesting release. This is the 3-disc limited edition Blu-ray set from Blue Underground. Came out, again, I'll double check the back, but I want to say 2019, 2018, somewhere around there. And this was exciting because we had the Arrow video releases, we had the previous Blue Underground, but at the time Blue Underground was doing these 3-discers, lenticular, slipcover, you know, CD soundtrack. They did it for Zombie Flesh Eaters, Maniac. So for them to do House by Cemetery, yeah, it was a big deal. Jumped on it straight away. And yeah, as you can see, newly commissioned artwork, kind of a variation, one of the older artworks, but the same quote from the previous release by Bloody Disgusting. You do have Fraudstein on this cover. Again, not the biggest fan of it. Yeah, not, like I said, just doesn't do anything for me. And it's a shame because I believe this artwork was actually done by the original artist, which was nice. They got him back and did like New York Ripper again, I believe this one as well. So you know, I really do appreciate that, and the artwork itself is, you know, stunning. But yeah, just not a fan, not a fan. But it is lenticular, so that does go a long way. It's quite nice. Shame we don't see more kind of lenticular slip covers and, you know, just covers in general. But here we have the back of the release. For the most part, the extras are pretty identical to the original Blue Underground release. There's a few new special features. You've got Homequake interview with co-writer Giorgio Maurizio, Katrina McCall Q&A, call-in Dr. Fraudsign interview with Stephen Thrower, author of Beyond Terror, the films of Lucio Fulci. And then this one, you've got a new audio commentary with Troy Howarth, author of Splintered Visions, Lucio Fulci in his film. So yeah, a few nice additions, especially the Troy Howarth and Stephen Thrower inclusions. As you can see, again, this is free disc. You get the CD soundtrack by Walter Rizzati, which was a big selling point because gushed about it in the review itself, but this is one of the greatest soundtracks of any horror film. So yeah, really appreciate that. And there's the inside. You've got 2 discs on the right. You've got a 3rd disc behind the booklet. All different cover art again, which is nice. The booklet itself is, it's a lot meatier than the Arrow booklet. Yeah, you've got a versatile cover art. You've got the newly commissioned artwork, and then you've got the artwork from that Arrow window box edition with the hand with a knife. Yeah, again, overall, just a really solid release. I was really happy with this. And they did go on to release this on 4K, minus the CD soundtrack and the booklet, I believe. Different cover art, which is a bit of a shame. But, I was just really happy with this release, to be fair. This was my go-to for a few years until the next release came out. And here is that next release, the final release that I'm going to be talking about. Like I said, I don't have that Blue Underground 4K, sadly, but yeah, this is the Arrow Video 4K release. Again, I want to say it's either 2021 or 2023. I'm not 100% sure. I will double check that. But this is how you do newly commissioned artwork. Right, again, it does show Fraudsign, which is a bit of a shame, but he's more kept in the darkness a little bit. You can't really make out too much detail, so I'll give it a pass. But yeah, I love the artwork on this, the colours, building on those original poster artworks. I just think it does a really good job. It looks very gothic, very retro. Yeah, 2 thumbs up from me. So like with all of these Arrow Video box sets, you do get a J card, and again, just skimming over it, it does look to be mostly the same. I mean, there is probably a few special features in there which are brand new, but nothing's really sticking out. It does, like I said, it does look the same. So could be wrong. I mean, you do have the audio commentary by Troy Howarth ported over from the Blue Underground, which is nice. I'm not sure if the Stephen Thrower one is. I'm not seeing it, but could be. But yeah, like I said, it's more about this being on 4K. The overall box set, the presentation, the booklet, the poster, the art cards, is at the moment is the definitive set. And there's the contents. You have a very thick booklet. You've got a double-sided poster featuring new artwork, and I believe the original British artwork that you're seeing in front. You've got, I think it's 5 lobby cards, and yeah, the release itself, reversible sleeve, new artwork, and the artwork that you're seeing. 1 disc, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, even though it is 4K, it would have been nice to have it dual format, or again, CD soundtrack. This is why, for me, it's essential to hold on to that Blue Underground 3 disc here, because of the CD soundtrack. Yeah, it's just a bit of a shame that this one doesn't include it, but yeah, it's a solid release. This is the version that I watched for the review. Audio transfer is absolutely stunning. Colors popped, audio is crisp, lots of detail. Yeah, just really nice. One of the best 4Ks I probably own, and I did check out some of the special features on this. I checked out this does have the Stephen Thrower, because I did check it out and that was great. Like always, Stephen Thrower is the master, so yeah, really enjoyed that. Very a lot of information that I didn't know, so yeah, great watch. And I did check out a bit of the Katrina McCall interview, again solid. So yeah, really nice release. Like I said, at the moment it is the definitive edition for House by Cemetery, so they have released it separately without the box set and all the goodies you can get for, just over a tenner, I believe. It did get a Blu-ray release as well, both limited and standard. But yeah, I mean, we're at a point in physical media where these classics have been given, ultimate editions on the ultimate format. So it's going to be really interesting to see where do they go next. How can they top these releases? But yeah, this is a big one. So definitely grab it if you can. So that is it for House by Cemetery, really. I did give a lot of my thoughts and opinions in the actual review itself this time. Again, with it being a bumper special, just wanted to put a little bit more detail in there. But overall, I mean, I absolutely loved the film. This watch definitely cemented it as one of, if not, it's hard to beat Zombie Flesh Eaters for me, but it's right there. Just like City of Living Dead did. I mean, they climbed to the very top. So yeah, I think maybe another watch, and this could be it. This could be my favourite Fulci, but yeah, it just got everything that I love from these types of films in it. So gore, acting, the atmosphere, the story, the music, the direction. It's just Fulci and his crew at this time are on the absolute top of their game. And I can't recommend it enough. I'm sure everyone has seen it who's watching this, but if you haven't, please go watch it. It's a classic, and yeah, just one of the very best from one of the very best. But yeah, that is House by Cemetery. Hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoyed the review. Again, leave comments, spark discussion. I always reply back. And yeah, it'd be interesting to hear what your thoughts are on the film, and the legacy of the movie and these additions as well. What are you hoping for in the future? What ones have you picked up? We're edging closer to 100 subscribers, which is incredible. I'm very grateful. Really do appreciate all the love and support everyone's shown me in this really short time. Only been doing it for a couple of months, 2-3 months at this point, and yeah, it's been an absolute blast. I've enjoyed every week just putting these videos together, watching the film, doing a bit of research, and yeah, it seems like a lot of you have as well. So again, really appreciate that. And before I go, just want to update you again. Once do get to 100 subscribers, there will be a giveaway. Have 4 or 5 Fulci Blu-ray titles that I want to give away to you guys, and send to good homes. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do it at the moment, but yeah, I'll get to work on that straight away, because I think we're probably going to hit it within a week or two. So it's very exciting. But like I said, I want to give back to you guys, so keep an eye out for that. I do plan to have a update video and maybe a Q&A as well, something special. Like I said, 100 subscribers, felt like such a way off when I first started, and it's come around so quick. So I want to cement this milestone by doing something special. So yeah, maybe a Q&A. So I'll set something up, keep an eye out, look on the post section and stuff like that. And yeah, I'll be back next week with another Fulci goodie. So watch this space. Thank you again. Hope you all enjoyed and have a great day. Take care.